Thank you for joining the Gift Up podcast. Make sure to hit that like button, share the videos, and subscribe. In this podcast, I want to go through the most improved teams this offseason in the AFC. We'll start with the Buffalo Bills. I think they did what they needed to do to get better this offseason. It was pretty apparent when you watched the games last year. The offensive line did a good job. Josh Allen hung in the pocket for as long as he could. He stared down the field. He tried to make things with the receivers that he had, but unfortunately he didn't have anybody over 6 foot to throw to that was consistent. Cole Beasley and John Brown are crafty, but they're not legit number ones in this league. They went out there and did the biggest thing since T.O. came to Buffalo. They get Stephon Diggs, a legit number one wideout in this league that defenses have got to worry about. Cole Beasley and John Brown will be able to eat underneath. The tight ends will be able to eat, and this will also improve the run game. And I was impressed with Devin Singletary last year as the season went on. He makes the most out of his touches. Then they go out there and they add Zach Moss to complement the run game. Defensively, they added a lot of rotational talent on the defensive line. It's one of the deepest lines in football. That's how they got better this offseason. By shoring up their receiving core and making the defensive line even deeper. They accomplished that. Next up are the Bengals. And honestly, aside from, if it wasn't for this offensive line and T. Higgins, I actually would be very, very, very optimistic about the Bengals. But look, let's look at the positives here. They got a franchise quarterback for the first time in a long time. I mean, seriously, this is the biggest hype since probably, Carson Palmer, okay. It was kind of bad how that ended for them with the Steelers. I remember that game. I watched that live, and that was devastating. But we're talking about years. You're going back 16 years since the Bengals have had a franchise quarterback. So if they actually got this done by getting Burrow, we'll see how it plays out. But I'm pretty happy with Burrow and what I see on film. Deadly accurate, stands in the pocket strong, all the things you want to see from a quarterback. He's got that at least. He's got the basic groundwork down. I'm excited about that. That's a big thing. I'm worried about the O-line, though. I am worried about the receiving core beyond A.J. Green. Tyler Boyd, but he's soft, and people aren't going to convince me otherwise. But franchise quarterback, plus I love what they did with this defense, though. I really did. I like the moves that they made. DJ Reader coming in to complement Carlos Dunlap and Geno Atkins, that's huge. Sam Hubbard had a good year rushing the passer. Carl Lawson needs to step up and become more of a legit full-time player. And I think we'll see a lot of good things happen with this defensive front. And I like what they did in the secondary, too. Getting these old Minnesota pieces that still have a lot of talent. Trey Waynes, Mackenzie Alexander. I'm excited about those two additions to pair with William Jackson. I like that. That's legit. We're going to go to the Colts next. Now, despite what I've said about Phillip Rivers, which I still stand by, the Colts have two quarterbacks on their roster that they shouldn't. The Colts should have more faith in their GM and in what they do. They have Jacob Eason. They have Chad Kelly. That's good enough for me. If you guys are wrong about the young talent that you draft, so be it then. But why are we recycling has-beens here? Phillip Rivers is done. Jacoby Brissett, they overpaid for like crazy for a guy who is obviously a second-string quarterback. Very good second-string quarterback, but a second-string quarterback nonetheless. I don't understand that. That's the only thing from the Colts that I cannot understand. Everything else I pretty much agree with. The offensive line is one of the best in the league. They have a legit number one receiver in T.Y. Hilton. They invested a couple draft picks the last 2 years in their wide receiving core. They added a lot of talent on the defensive side. Getting DeForest Buckner this year, Justin Houston last year. A couple of years ago, they draft Darius Leonard. They know what they're doing. Malik Hooker, one of the best coverage safeties in the league when healthy. I love the idea that they brought in Xavier Rhodes. I still think that he's a legit number one corner, and he just needed to change his scenery because I've seen him go against the best and dominate. So a lot that I like from the Colts, and they're one of the better teams. Even, again, in the draft this year, Jonathan Taylor, great pick. But the quarterback situation. It's not to say that they aren't one of the more improved teams in the AFC, That's just to say I think they're wasting their season on Rivers. Next up, the Denver Broncos, and I like this. I mean, they from top to bottom, they make their receiving core better. They already have a legit number one with Cortland Sutton. They pair Jerry Jeudy with him. That's legit. They also drafted KJ Hamler. We'll see what happens there. But the fact that they got Jerry Jeudy, the fact that I think that they got two true number one receivers for Drew Lock to throw to, I'm excited about it. This offensive line keeps getting better. I like their draft this year. They got Cushenberry to solidify that center position. They have Risner and Bowles on that left side, which I like. That's one of the best left sides in football. They get Melvin Gordon to pair with Phillip Lindsay. I absolutely love that. And say what you will about Melvin Gordon, I kind of agree with a lot of people that hate on him because in big game moments, he did not step up. But as a second back behind Phillip Lindsay, who I believe is easily a top 20 back, I think he's even in that top 15 range when healthy. I like that. That's adding depth. That's adding a surety to the running back position. I like it. The only thing offensively at this point that I have got to see is how good Drew Lock is. It's kind of the same thing when I looked at the Colts. It's like you got to figure out the quarterback position. This is a different situation. Drew Lock's a young talent. We have to see what happens with him. If he's even decent, he doesn't have to be great, but if he's even decent or just okay, I think the Broncos are a wild card team. And I like what they did defensively too. The fact that they were last year able to get Boye, that's huge. That's a true number one corner for Fangio to work with. And then I absolutely love the addition of Jarrell Casey. That is one of the biggest moves this offseason. I think nobody's really giving it enough hype. But I think the Broncos have made themselves one of the better front sevens and one of the best defensive lines in football when you pair in Von Miller and Bradley Chubb with Jarrell Casey. That's big time. That's a serious defensive line, and Fangio gets the most out of his players. I think he's going to get a lot out of his players this year on that D-line. Next up, I want to bring up the Chargers, and they have gotten better. And they've gotten better just for the simple fact that they've moved on from Phillip Rivers. It's a long time coming, and I hate to keep beating a dead horse, but they are going to be a better football team with Tyrod Taylor than they were with Phillip Rivers. That's not a joke. I don't know why people think that I'm joking or I'm a clown or I'm trying to be funny about this. It's true. Tyrod Taylor brought a Buffalo Bills team that wasn't very good to a 9-7 record with just an average rushing attack. What's he going to do with two legit weapons on the outside, a decent offensive line? He'll take care of the football. He'll make plays down the field at times, but he's going to let this defense do its job. They're going to win the turnover battle and win games that way. This is one of the best defenses in football. They add Linval Joseph to shore up that defensive line, which they needed to do. It looks like they may have missed on Jerry Tillery. We'll see what happens with that, but it looks like it's not working out. I didn't see him make much of an impact last year, but getting Linval Joseph between Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram is how you build an offensive line. That's how you do things. It's like putting pieces together of a puzzle. Yet some GMs try to make pieces that don't fit. They just keep smashing them in. And they say insanity is repeating things over and over again that don't work. Well, a lot of these GMs have that issue, or there's just like a block wall. The Chargers aren't one of those teams. They draft well. They know how to build a team. They made this defense one of the best in football. So one of the best D-lines in football. But then you look at the fact that they added to the linebacking core. I like the draft pick of Kenneth Murray. They needed to shore that up because of the injuries that have been going on there. Hopefully Denzel Perryman can stay healthy because I think he's really good against the run, and he's definitely a difference maker at linebacker. He's just got to stay on the field. But I love what they did with the secondary. Derwin James is the type of player that can take Travis Kelce out of a game. He's got to stay healthy. But the fact that they brought in Chris Harris, getting Chris Harris back there, somebody to pair with Casey Hayward, gives you two legit options on the outside. Casey Hayward plays at an elite level along with Derwin James. Chris Harris is just going to add to that. Desmond King is a really good corner as a depth piece. So this is going to be one of the best defenses in football, and they've gotten better because they shored up the defense, they patched the holes, and they have a better quarterback situation now than what they had with Rivers. And the last team I'm going to bring up is the Ravens. And yes, I stand by what I said about the Ravens missing the playoffs. I stand by what I said about this offense taking a step back this year. Teams are going to be ready for the read option. And you know what? If Lamar Jackson goes out there and throws from the pocket and proves me wrong, even when the run game's not working and the misdirection's not working, then I will come on here, make a video, say I was wrong. I still stand by that. I think this offense is going to have some issues because of that. Teams are going to be ready for the read option. There's got to be other tricks up their sleeve. That being said, what they added defensively makes them one of the more improved teams in football and in the AFC particularly. Patrick Queen, Malik Harrison at linebacker, that needed to be done. They had to go last year. You know, they got rid of C.J. Mosley. They had to wait. Well, they got one of the best linebackers and one of the best coverage linebackers in the draft. The only weakness I saw from Patrick Queen was he's got to hit the weight room a little bit more to get to NFL level, to get that strength up to that level. Other than that, I saw everything from a linebacker that you would want, a safety in a linebacker's body. That's what the new norm is. That's what you want. And Calais Campbell, that's big. He is a huge player. He's a physical freak on the defensive line. I'm not even so much hung up with stats about Calais Campbell because of the bodies that he takes up and how he seals the edge. He doesn't leave much room for running backs or quarterbacks. So that's going to be worth its weight just in itself. Derek Wolfe, I like, although I think people are hyping that up. He's a really, really good role player, but I think people are a bit crazy saying that he's dominant. I don't believe that, but he is really good against the run. He is, but I think he is a role player. I don't think he's an every down 24/7 player. I'm not, and nothing against him. The league needs role players too, but they need to chill out with the hype with that. But a good addition nonetheless. And then looking at the secondary, I think you even go back to last year during the season, getting Marcus Peters, Earl Thomas, that's big time. Marlon Humphrey, I'm excited about him on the outside heading into another year. So a lot to like, and I think this defense for the Ravens has got to be their strong point, because I do stand by what I said about the offense. I'm not going to change my mind about that. But the additions that they made to this defense keeps it up to where it could be a top 10 unit. And with that, make sure to hit the like button, share the videos, and subscribe. The next video I'll do will be on the NFC most improved teams.